Mary, yeah, you're right. No, they haven't assigned me yet. Mm. Sean, who is assigning interpreters? Buenos días. Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear His Holiness Yangsi. Happy birthday to you.
Andrea, the center seems to be muted.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody, Happy New Year. And Yangsi, Tungala Tashdele Shuyas.
And Tashidileg, on this occasion of the birthday of His Holiness Yangsi Rinpoche.
나도 처가 지년 된다고 했어.
그렇게 맹겨. 야구스 코마스 캠.
처가.
아하.
오메아 짬바라메 산제는 뭐지 쇼바라메 산제는 뭐지 렘바라메 샤네 군조 성란 쇼바 아 셰지 나는 베타모.
So we will sing a song together for this birthday celebration.
Sean, can you screen share the YouTube? Volume?
No one.
No volume, Sean.
No sound.
Yeah. Sean, if you want to put the video on and I will put the music on maybe.
To fix, when sharing, you must select optimize for video and play computer audio.
Sean, do you need something from us? Do you want me to start playing it here?
On the
I'm
bottom,
not sure where to find those.
Well, if you play the video, I can play the
Okay.
audio here.
I found it. Perfect.
Great.
Here we go.
Well, we know there's some technological issues, but I hope everybody enjoyed the audio, and we'll work on getting more technical knowledge slowly. So can
Maybe stop.
Hmm?
Net little bit stop. Okay. 드린다 가서 로사바니 돈 예치자기게 네 로데라 다 맞은 소마 아니 소소소 미우다 레바 카리가 반 소만 루비토네 아니 다른 돈 예치데 내가 저 갈래 가고 싶어 주말에서 대치디 들리기단 고 강아텔레 트론네 돈 예치자기라 당아서 미우다 레바 안다바 카레에 봐서서 지원이 된 카레기 돈이나야 단진들에게 나도 망한다라 제고였어.
And today is the New Year's Day of the 2021. And we had this very difficult year of 2020, and now we have passed this year. And I hope and I pray that all of us here, able to fulfill all the wishes and whatever that may be, whether that's worldly, all the spiritual, I hope and pray that you all may fulfill all those wishes.
아니 미세게 당하고
Sería desearles un feliz 2021 y que todos sus deseos sean los mejores y
We
se
say
cumplan
que,
deseosmente en relación a
말아서
la
다
vida espiritual.
rinpoche que 충각에 뒤졌대 뭐였잖아 가상 나오지 자고열에서 이나야 당아서 유럽 내내 로마 가지게 레콜 시와나기 전에 나도 뒤졌대 제부제부 투아레스.
Actually, the birthday of Yangsi, His Holiness Yangsi Rinpoche was yesterday on the 31st, but as per requested by our European Sangha, we have changed and moved this to this New Year Day.
그래서 네 가상 제바이나 건다마다 제토만도 네 건다 제바이나 고소박이 네 주전이 봤으면 맞더니 차로도 대치되니 와서 고소를 삼나다 지금 이제 올라온 것들이스 남지 근데 달에 소지를 잡으려서
Because if we did this yesterday, then we have to do it in the evening, like around 7 p.m. or something like that. And that would be like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in European countries. So it will be very difficult for them to join us. So that's why we changed this to today.
가서 그 영신 총관서야 될라 지당게다 가서 소당 마다 열에서 조대 가래에서는 가서 네 라미게 아니 자반티네 가서 그 예스타야 디레스.
There are many different ways to celebrate and greet this birthday of one's Lama, but the best way to do is to remember the Lama and to recall all his enlightened activities.
네, 다 조다 지가서 지시샤로라고 냐는 점이야 그 뒤에 단다다든 맞아 나자가 강하게 재미게 중요한 민도스 이나야다 맞아게 냠들 라민나죠 다야레 네 라미킨 자반티네 맞아게 템야 템바 서치네 양양도 대조 태야데 니케 점보다고 통수 되는지네 네 라미킨 티네 자세지 니마셔야 배산하고 지금이스
Since during this time, we don't have the opportunity to get together and to sing and dance together. So we have doing this right now, online gathering together and recalling the enlightened activities of His Holiness and share them, some parts of it to share with you and also to do the Guru Yoga Puja.
지당게 가서 최년은 베티게는 삼노 도나 근데 라마라 소데야다 우리가 같이 할래 사바키 아니 냠내다 최기 매와 네 라마도 저게 양네 아니 송구야린 더 미비 네줄라야 티차디어레스
And talking from the spiritual side, Dharma side, to practice Guru Yoga and to do the practice of the Lama, the Guru Yoga, that is the best. And there isn't anything more than that, to practice Guru Yoga that has been, taught by the Lamas again and again in the past.
이 가르스나 네 단담 링키지 비예헤네 소사 드바 좀 빌라제다 또된 라미치라 코나레 타이엔 템바 모바 히바 차스비카서 나저 그 단단 링키지 비예헤암 아니 생크니루 카이바데 토암 또바 제발라네 아니 단단 니마도 요마레스 미테네 수요레스 제니마
Because it has been taught that, in order to realize the co-emergent wisdom of the ultimate truth, you can only have two things to realize that. And the first thing is to accumulate the accumulations of merit and wisdom. And the second one is through the blessings of one's Lama.
teaching because le lama la soa mama mi apo te sosi te pake ani meguiten de apo ti meva ina ya lama ke senke ngo te de res ni ngato ke lonye te wana ji tsuten da ya soso na tmaya ke kokaki meva res.
Because unless you have this, devotion and faith from your side, there is no way to show the Lama's heart, enlightened mind or wisdom to you, just like we see in the movie. There's no way to show the wisdom, enlightened mind of Lamas like that.
Diri ngaso teacher tuntuji no le chama heya ke teacher yungu mare se ban che namba ne teacher tene do yeba yin la min nan ta te so yeda ani ni ti ge juba and the Gunjan Longchen Ramjan Tin, the Sankin Niluto, and Samuel Trezu, and the Toba Nieto, then I use the Yimin, but Toba Nieto, and the Denima Jimmy Javin Yuguda, Pater Rinpoche, and Lundo, the Denima Zibike, Lama Jibat Sama, Lami Tuji Chilala, then the Samuel Tre Nyamto Jeva, like a logic Janga Yres.
Since we don't have much time here together, I cannot tell you, many of the stories, life stories, the previous lamas, but if you have time, if you read the life stories of the lineage lama of the Nyingti, beginning from the Kunja Longchen Rabjam, you see that all of those lamas, Kunja Longchen Rabjam, Kunja Jigme Lingpa, Jigme Gyawenyuku, Pater Rinpoche, Longto Rinpoche, all those has been realized, the ultimate nature or the nature of their mind based on the faith and devotion of one's Lama.
Tena yi chen nam che ge ju ba ina de tai ko nga zo ke ji ge ti ji lu de zo chama ke ju ba no le ye ba ina chama ji ju da bu de cha de res.
And in the same way, if you look at the lineage lamas, namche, or any teaching, it's the same thing. It's like, they all realize their nature through the devotion and faith.
Tende indi ka so le tring dang ge da xin xie dang ba jia jia ren bo che jin za ban tin le na ne ane cha sang jing ge xie to ya yo ma re la ti che ke chu ya yo ma re yin ba yin na yang dang ge tring de ni ma xue de xue de ka ren yin se na ren bo che ke ku chen chi shi bu la ane za ban tin le Kechewa ane tansen dulabuti ngema shugi shuag betachignis.
There's no way that I can tell you the whole life story and enlightened activities of our late His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, but I will try here to tell you some of the important events based on a kind of 7 topics or 7 subcategories.
Then da tambo jite karing isen di shibaina da Rinpoche tanda ngazo da Rinpoche de tanda yongsin ngazo ke tanda de chungkar tanda ya de kontren yiba chago yares di gana da kontren som chene kori ke da kontren yida buji chago yares.
The present Yangsi Rinpoche that we are celebrating his birthday today is the 4th incarnation line of Penor Rinpoche. There have been 3 previous, His Holiness Penor Rinpoches.
Sumba Shinshi Tamba Nato Kadi Chen Shinshi Tamba Sajo Rinpoche Konke Zabatine Tansen Tuo Mayimba Ki Tachik Chicho Tansen Dinda Ni Onsik Ko Kandesen Manzinazo Mutelek Chen Tamisha Yins.
So I will tell you here the 3rd Penor Rinpoche, the late His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, his enlightened activities, the important ones in 7 categories, plus how the new young Si Rinpoche was found and enthroned.
Tate nane Pangazo Tishudi Gasole Shinshi Tamba Shamja Rinpoche Kuntenda Sumpake dan Zabatini the Shudi Gasola and Shudi Gasola Konke Munzin Namsulta Ane Kuchumu Gasola and Zabatine Jamsulte and Yishugus and the Jig Tomomai Barochi. Tomomai Bake 아니 먼지 나서 만다와지 코니라 예바레데 아니 지슈 고인도스.
And the first point I want to make here is how the third Penor Rinpoche was found, his incarnation was found and enthroned. This is kind of a little bit uncommon way of, a special way of founding him and enthroning.
단체 니바텔라 아니 코리 된주기 제메게 자할 패치네. 남돌린데 우칸데 주바. 지단다 지그 라마 모보지 치료를 패치네 공화와지 중요해. 더 많이 봐. 코리게 공화와지 남네 제네. 나돌린게 되니 gamba티 카니스 투여바 데이토니 지슈아인스.
And the second, I will talk about how His Holiness escaped to India and how the Namtroling monastery in India was established. Although during those times, many Tibetan lamas have endured lots of hardship, but especially His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, endured all those kinds of hardship and then rebuilt this Payul monastery in India.
아니 단체 숨바텔라 코리게 아니 gets along don't by yet, and Rajuk de, and then Zami Chayola, Canis and Chapetayaba. The Tolan Zapatina Kanichayaba, the issue Kudus.
And the third one I would make is, how he spread the lineage of the, novice monk and bhikshu monk, the fully ordained monk, those vows, and then how the Buddhist monks has been spread throughout this world.
That's a Yibatela, Namdoling, Zubiki, and Perda, Jakarta, Perla, and the Sheda Tezu Jenny, and then Zamli Chayola, and Noncheki, Lava Tachimbiki, and Tony, Nonche Tapekan Staiva.
And the fourth point is how he established the Shedra, the philosophical college in India and in Tibet. And through these colleges, how the scholars has been spread throughout the world and spread the Buddha Dharma.
Tanzania batela koriki chitangi tuhi tembo ane karsena ane tone duja Roma teto Yesu zumba jonzo de mandawa yabati otichi shukudos.
And the fifth one is his mind stream is very stable, and how he looked after the disciples and then spread these disciples throughout,
아니 단체 주바텔라 아니 미리다 아니 추주다 데네게 리소 마치바 아니 잔이 샤노요나 아니 노체티 다베 동야게 투예 칸데 투예 토네 자바티나 칸데 자야바지 주고dos.
And the sixth one is, without any kind of differentiating, between the different race or nationalities and different followers of the different religious traditions, how he, looked after all of them, and then they spread the Buddha Dharma throughout the world.
단체 님바텔라 따단다 잠불니 히데유야 기체도라 아니 손제 산제 비기 네 체버제 도제데나 니마 용조 다 냠톤 초제네 아니 마음체모지 로타바리히다 달로 디디마도 초투야 말마도 되니지 초구야레스다 떼촌에 달로 숨지가스 기도고지 자구는 곳 주바리 디토라 코리키 투예다 아니 매장 간리치네 아니 지금 잠불니나 히데유야 기체도라 마음다
And the seventh point is, his contribution towards the world peace, especially by setting up the, Nyima Mölam Chemo, that is the Nyima aspiration prayers being held annually at the most holy site, that is at Bodh Gaya. It was founded in 1989, and it's been more than 30 years that the Mölam festival is being held every year, except for this year, due to this COVID-19. I think it was held in a very abbreviated form,
근데 기존에 나니 담보 단코리 그다음에 드네 단전 담보대 단코리 만진제도 더 많이 받지 중초인 받대 주바이나스.
And among the seven now, if I elaborate a little bit on the first topic, how he was identified and enthroned, I will talk into this a little bit.
제디 단단하도 근데 숨바겐 잡아 티는데 지게기 그랬어. 제디 가서를 띠 콘테 님바게 감니 네 코리게 딱고 고마 콘테 님바게 갑솔라 딱 콘테 님바게 잡아 티는 타마딜라 코리게 투예라고 간지 나이봐 아니 잡아도 간지 짱이면 쉬와 있나스.
So right now we are talking about the life story of His Holiness, Penor Rinpoche, the third Penor Rinpoche, So before that, if we look at the end of the life of the second Penor Rinpoche, how he, has this, the big mind towards the helping all the world, just before he passed away.
So, Kori da gonna chuju gane da he person abuji chagu res. The chechene ane Kori ke da pensi ninja lama da loma chusunju. Ane kenjeng nga gong bosene da hindi ki lama ane bela da keda cheche da za cheche ji chagu re. Ane Kori pari jila be masi ke tu non tempo da ane pensi lalo chusunju the chagu res.
The second Penor Rinpoche rather passed away at a very young age, and both his root lama as well as his disciple was Khenpo Ngage Wangpo. At that time, Khenpo Ngage Wangpo was the most famous and most popular teacher in the Tibet at that time, and this Khenpo Ngage Wangpo was very close and has a very, good samaya with His Holiness Second Penor Rinpoche.
당에 느디지니 시바이나 아니 kenjeng nga gongbo kenjeng rinpoche kutengi ba de hinle phekwa la mola ni kenjeng nga gongbo yusa da khon yusa ni ani soso chaso res.
If I put it in a very shortly, at the time of death of the second Penor Rinpoche, the place of, at that time, the Penor Rinpoche's residence was far away from that of the Khenpo Ngage Wangpo.
Ni kenjeng nga gongbo ke ngazo rinpoche de hinle phekwa ya ba gongche ne ani khori ke ronam no la yores gongche ne ani khori ta ji tubara bo de ke ani 토니 아니 맞아 그런 거 제군디라 아니 배와이바 코리케로 나무는 되게 숨여래서.
And you can even see this incident in the autobiography of Khenpo Ngage Wangpo that's still available, And at that time, Khenpo Ngage Wangpo knew that the second Penor Rinpoche was passing away. So through a miraculous manifestation, he went to and meet with the second Penor Rinpoche.
네 kenje nga gombo ke ronam no sa ya jore mata nga so ke ta chi de ro mare stichidi ane konke ta chele hinle 배와이나 ane 가스는 그 유기 관련도 시슈데 다가 ane 노로게 노차도 되서 처마데 ane 돌아도 본도 차야사리 단데라 데마데 민도 ane konshila 파야시 차기 인생 되는 소부도 센 되려서.
And then, they met together in this miraculous form. And then Khenpo Ngage Wangpo asked His Holiness the Second Penor Rinpoche how he was feeling. And he replied that, looks like, my internal organs has been, all been gone, kind of, not working anymore. So it feels like it's not worth to live anymore right now in this body, And these are not just me or anybody else saying, this has been, recorded in the autobiography of Khenpo Ngage Wangpo.
So then that hin peraina ane konke ropa do the chego anduna ninge che chosen the shu the list shivares.
And then Khenpo Ngage Wangpo, told His non-holiness that, if you are passing away and if I can be of any help to you, I can do that,
The chede the karisumbares and na that nungsen la rawa taya the chadi ni shingang kama pena yang 난도 초초 인스 아니 로봇하고 되게 그냥 무슨 이나 말했어.
And His Holiness replied that, I don't need any help. I have already powered over the mind and the wind, and I can go in any of the pure realms. I can able to go if I want to any of the pure realms.
니 굉장히 하고 온 보게 니 내가 지기 신간을 패나 니 내고 되게 여가 되는 시발했어.
And Khenpo Ngagу told him that, maybe, you should go to Devachan, the pure, blissful realm of Amitabha Buddha, that may be the best to go to.
이나양 공립게 가르쳐 바르스는 게다 많이 대 아니 돈줄 하스 때문에 인스테 제디 가서는 고 제네식 희나 아니 배야게 공이여가 숨여레스.
And His Holiness replied that I have recited the Mani Mantra more than 100 million times, and in that way, kind of implying that he can go to to the realm of Avalokiteshvara.
제디 다른 게 아니 zubote ke penthoya mindus 아니 이나야 다고 영차르지와 렌디 갑슬라 아니 강게야 너미 추바 아니 되게 지당 거리 닫고 고제 딜라베 아니 냠춤치 아니 데리라고 차진 잡아티네 뭐보지라 강아이 말했어 되지디 아니 고제 제마딜라가 되는 잡아티네 자첨보지 좋아하다 아니 가래기나야 나바다 그다 파티티네 마토야다 되게 잡아tillen기 인생네 아니 고제 제마딜라 되지 남기 인생 숨바레스.
And His Holiness at that time told that, that his body is no longer able to hold it anymore, and so he is going to pass away from this one. And that second Penor Rinpoche was kind of very humble, and he faces many hardship and hurdle and obstacles to his enlightened activities. And so he said that the next rebirth I will get into such a form that no obstacles and hindrances can obstruct any of his enlightened activities.
tātē chīdī kāsōlēn kōrī ngā tsō kīnshī tāmbā shabjar mbō chē kī kū gōmā kūntē nīpī kī kūchīn tāmā kī tū kī gōmā tē chō rābō tā anī jī kī tīndē kī māngō bāla yōngshā pēdī kāsōlē kāni nāngi yāma tīndē kī tūshī jā chāmbō jī kī anī tsām jā rābō jī tīndē jī kī tōne anī kō gōmā tē kī nzabā tīndē jā chāmbō nzabō līlā chāpsō yā 아니 근데지 중화기 아니 문제지나 리더도 근데 대야 굉장히 와고 보고 로나로나 아니 숨겨가 되지만 로마 가야 로마지 로도 따치는 저가야라고 가야 말했어.
So the fact that the third Penor Rinpoche has a very vast enlightened activity is because we can identify it that because he has this intention, he has this vision from his previous birth, that is second Penor Rinpoche, while passing away. He has this kind of vision, this kind of mentality to help all these sentient beings and to spread the Buddha Dharma. Because of that, the third Penor Rinpoche was able to establish and spread the Buddha Dharma throughout the world.
영상아 저 텐다야 쇠네 야네 야데 대조 아니 땅고로 요가 제대 가서 조라민 잡은 티네다 대조 탱크야지 차고요래 되게 토네 닝이 쉬고요스.
I'm sure many of you know the life stories, of His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, especially the third Penor Rinpoche, very well, But today is the birthday of Yangsi Rinpoche, and on this occasion, I will again tell you to remind you about the enlightened activities of the third Penor Rinpoche, because we do this Guru Yoga every day, and the Guru Yoga is nothing but, to recall one's Lama's enlightened activities.
지금 아주 Guru Yoga 지디 가서를 시당 그 Guru Yoga 때 고소스 자유 라마다 예만 기바기니 고지 무릎지 시올라 검체네 딘딜라 아니 좀 이바티지는 걸 같이 아주 장어를 대다 샤르도 맞아 그 라민자반 팀내 연대 아니 대조대 영내 용도 챙겨야지 연구를 같이 가서 이렇게 제시지 장어를
Generally, when we do the Guru Yoga, we look at the Guru Padma Sampava as inseparable from one's own Guru and then doing the supplication prayer. But it's also very important that, you recall your own lamas and enlightened activities and his qualities while doing this Guru Yoga.
이제 라미 견자반 팀내에 야보지 소소를 로랑 예보지 메나 아니 때내 근거를 같이 가서 대한 가부 장어를
So if you don't know your own lamas enlightened activities, fully or very confidently in your mind, then while doing this Guru Yoga, it may not be easy to recall the lamas enlightened activities.
이제 안에 다 직단서 동에서 나이미도 가서 그냥도 담치네 아니 되게 내가 팀에 대해서야는 하는 가족에 아지 고들어 되게 내가 좀 통선스
So that's why I feel it very important to all of us to recall our late His Holiness Penor Rinpoche's, enlightened activities, to do while doing the Guru Yoga as well.
그때 때 이거 주당하고 지 그새 고마게 가서 간디 중요한 거 yes.
So to begin the third Penor Rinpoche's life story, I just relate to you how at the end of the second Penor Rinpoche's life, how his vision, how his thinking was.
그때니 안에를 먼저 군체 니바데 힘을 펼치네 아니 바이종게 다 까마고 젠고 고만이 저비게 바이종게다 켄보다 두고 가도 게 코메스야 바 제조 소만냠도 점체네 아니 고두체네 아니 용시데 아니 술랑 먼저 나로지는 선에 슈나스네 고두체체네 근데 타말라 아니 니미 마간 투게 적첸 콘텐가바 today church도 계세요. 콩라 쉬바레스.
So and then the second Penor Rinpoche passed away, and all the lamas and khenpos of the Payul monastery, headed by the previous Kamakuche Rinpoche, they gathered together and held a meeting and talked about how they should find the reincarnation of the second Penor Rinpoche. And at the end, they decided that they would ask the Dzogchen monastery is one of the 6 main monasteries, and the head lama is the Dzogchen Rinpoche. So they decided to ask the Dzogchen Rinpoche ask him to identify the reincarnation of the second Penor Rinpoche.
당에 디디디디치네 시바인스. 다들이치디 아니 콩게 가르쳐서나 아니 차리지 남발해서.
And I'm talking in a very short form now, and the Dzogchen Rinpoche, he sent a letter.
콩게 얘기 때는 가른 거였으나 아니 내조 보대지 초히나 렌첸 자르는데 제비자 외신나 좀 쏟아 댕게지 세대 초점 보러는도 다시 선남시 지미제나 리덴치오 투텔로 반주 텐도면 비겐천 좀 보여. 조종가 봐 추지도 지배세네. 네티니
Sorry, Andrea, the center's been muted. Can you please unmute?
So the Dzogchen Rinpoche, in his letter, he prophesied the reincarnate Penor Rinpoche, and it mentioned that in the upper region of Sacred Po, at the foothill of a majestic hill surrounded by beautiful trees and lakes, with a large river flowing from the south, to a couple bearing the names Sonam and Ki, a noble child will be born in the water monkey ear. Possessing great qualities, he will benefit the teachings and beings. I, the 5th Dzogchen, Tupten Chogi Dorje, prophesied this. So this is the prophecy letter of the reincarnation of the second Penor Rinpoche,
지디 가술래 다 이게 때는 가르쳐야로서나 사자대 간대지여 봐. 사자 보세서 되고 미세게 산에 제라바지 배용조 그는 산에 제라바지 이 사자들의 입되는데 간대지여 봐. Teni pak mi ke karesego ba ma mi karesego ba pu ke lota ta nga zo pe ta jate to luta to cheso ina ne lo ke lo shinse nga zo lota jioro o tedi kare imba o ta te so chasang se de jo ke ni ke numbers.
And in this prediction letter, it's very clear, it stated the site or the birthplace of the third Penor Rinpoche, which says that Po is a particular place in Tibet, and it also says the natural the sites of the place, how the place looks like, and it also mentioned the parents, name of the parents of the third Penor Rinpoche, and also the birth year, the animal signs of the birth year. In the Tibetan and Chinese system, in the tradition, they always talk about the animal sign of the year, and here mentioned the water monkey ear as the birth year of the third Penor Rinpoche.
The Chidikaso, to take church doje, got the consamla Judiores. And then the poor Lumba Teda, very Shachu come Tanda Payu, that Dochen, side Anotona, and the got the Gadi Yomare, Mota Yomare, Namri Yomare, and then Tata combat soon in Togu, Dawala Dogiake, and then Lambati Chadiores.
And at that time, the fifth Dzogchen Rinpoche was in a retreat. And the place of his monastery in Dzogchen and the Payul and the place of the third Penor Rinpoche birth was far away. During those times, there is no, means of transportation that like we have today, like an aeroplane or train or buses or vehicles or anything like that. If you have to go, you either have to walk or use the horseback, and it will take months to reach from the Kham area where the fifth Dzogchen Rinpoche and Payul Monastery is, and the place of birth of the third Penor Rinpoche.
Kawaii Yamare Kanga, Yamandela Zoyak, Nitsu Kaya Yamares.
And there is no modern means of communication like the telephone.
The Dijidikasolo, Mahi Range Tony Mao, beginning to Zibi Tony, Niga Dibichi. Nowadays.
So this is purely through the clairvoyance that he foresaw the birth of His Holiness Third Penor Rinpoche.
This didn't take the tone of John Karachi to listen. The song Sandy Fuchambo touching and also G. Nahes and about Natok and Namhi Habi Shiva Navajita, Shiva Najit saying Nanchis and about that today. Matok Mika can't, but now we can't tell about the killing him saying, Tetolaya, De Davachi, Tandasia Sanotona. And they called that Troji Yabaki, that the Nikin Nazok Samuel, the Habak, the Netuji Yabati, the Montreal race.
And what this prediction letter teaches us is that, in the modern world, there are many people who doesn't believe in the past lives, the previous life, and the future life, and who solely rely on what they see, what they hear, what they feel kind of thing, But this one teaches that, even though you haven't seen there or you haven't been there or something that's not yet happened, you can still predict those things exactly how it's going to be. This shows that, there's more than just our human minds thinking and what we feel and what we see.
Tanda Chanza Katedi by Tonga Chanz by Tonga Tuku Stem singing Teda. Ane Kokoma containing Baki Chanza Sandu Seva, Kona Bani Zebiki, Lalo Kahets, you get a kuchene, the Tata delicate combachene, the Pol Bala Sekasumbares.
So with the help of this prediction letter, one tuku from Payul named Tuku Tsutim and the attendant and the secretary of the previous Penor Rinpoche, the second Penor Rinpoche's secretary Samtup, the two of them, left to find this place according to the prediction letter.
The Polumba and Dawachi sitting in Duke draw, and the Yamaketa Cheche with the person, the Merso Park, Santa Garanimba, Market Santa Garanimba, Polo Shin Tagaranimba, and the Chasonji, Saja Tagaran La Nebares.
So it took months to reach the place, and then they went around the place and to find the young boy, and then they found this place exactly as described, and the parents' name and the birth animal sign of the child as well.
근데 거저 그때
Sorry, the center's been muted again. My apologies. Can you unmute, please?
드는 얘기 값을라 드는 대체 말했어 얘기 값을라 거저 영상 말로 용데 드는 하람 단다와니라고 니스톰다 같은 거야 와이나 이런 거 증거도 했듯이 마 거저 코군데 값을라 아니 저쪽 뭔가 차이 무슨 농에데 미신의 패스 말했어.
And then after finding this young boy, and then they returned back to Payul, by then it has many months has been passed, and by then time, the fifth Dzogchen Tupten Choji Dorje, who gave this protection letter, he already passed away.
근데 자기 공원도 쉬야게 가서 좀 거리다 펜션이가 라마다 로마쳐서 단다데 굉장히 공부도 디샤유데요 그래서.
But Khenpo Ngage Wangpo, the Lama and the disciple of the second Penor Rinpoche, was still alive at the time.
So, then Kona, ane to the Virginia song, ane de Tagara Rindu and Mindu as in Onko Shibaris.
So the Payul monastery, went to him, Khenpo Ngage Wangpo, and asked him, that, we have found this child, and whether this is the unmistaken reincarnation of the second Penor Rinpoche or not.
Then Konike, Tagaran Reshas, Nova Mindu Truanindu, Tagaran Reshas and the Tudan Shibaris.
And he declared that this is the unmistaken child, a reincarnation of the second Penor Rinpoche.
Then Kori Deneshibaris, Mulo, Kori Tuya, the Chidongo, Sunchi Sonila Tumbare, the Sunchi Sodulola, the Bono Nala Pedicasole, the Payilman Deneshibaris.
So the third Penor Rinpoche was born in 1932, and when he was about 5 years old in 1936, he was invited to the Payul monastery.
Techidiane, Karsana, Korike, Kajang Agomboki, and Chitank and Zegoteto, Na, Ane, Delichevares.
And Khenpo Ngage Wangpo presided over the enthronement ceremony.
He didn't Kajang Agombok and Chitank and Zegots JP Capsulaya, and then Luntana Bocarano Yasana, that con and a Maon Bala Tembatan, the Sanjanke, Rode Jachamanomi Shibo, Madawachi, Grace, Konik and Zabantinente, and a Thai Jamso Sanchela Chamdores, and Thai Jamso Sidigas on Azupe, that Zani Chai also one of the Takwal Lena Dicures or Tendilla Chamdores, and Catedini, Nilutan of the numbers.
And at that time, Khenpo Ngage Wangpo, prophesied that, this young Penor Rinpoche will greatly benefit the beings and the Buddha Dharma, and his enlightened activity will spread towards the shores of the oceans. Or towards the shores of oceans means, that his activities will spread throughout the world.
Today, you Tony, Manzi Chedandi, Tomo Mahiba. Ko yamsen che ko yamazo chik tanda mazo ke mikin toya da navi teyale rabi ke stanulen debi ke neto chike toni e chuante ne moderes.
So in this way, the third Penor Rinpoche was identified, and this identification is something that's beyond our ordinary mind. It's been, fully prophesied ahead of time and was exactly born according to the prophecy. So this is very extraordinary and out of our just ordinary mind.
Chidi chita to be ko tambishebo mambo tende ke toni munzi tomo mahiba 근데 제주다 된비 그 먼지 유요레스 때노니 다른 뭐 제지데 맞저게다 좋고 꼭아 희시 rinpoche tenichi chalyores.
Generally speaking, many tulkus, and many high lamas, or their identifications are very extraordinary, and among them, His Holiness late Penor Rinpoche is one of them.
어때지디 가서 땡하게 쉰더 중수 때 전세 가르스나 rinpoche 코리데 가레지 바 모체 지다 라바르도 디송아서 체니다 되는 동통이 강 통야다 강 퇴발에 라바지 연애면에서 도바사디아 몸부지 우여래 어떤데라 가족이 아니 상무동산에 같이 차고여스.
So I think this is very important point. First, to know who His Holiness's Third Penor Rinpoche really is or was, and this modern world, many people, won't go beyond what they see or what they hear, and to show that there is something beyond our ordinary mind, beyond our thinking or beyond our what we see or hear, there's something else as well.
근데 나태단 드레니 지가 시치와이나 아니 배나가서 나를 뭐 짓고나 춘지 값을 이게 장들이 값을 근데 제멋제네 도제 차르디 값을 아니 개개개 값전도 못했네 현안체네 아니 추마케 자리안에 먼저 용사 차려야 한다보다 아니 추오말에 줘야 한다보다 아니 도레 샤제야야 단단한 예지가 너 근데 용나서 그 사뮤엘인데밖에
And in relation to this, there are also many extraordinary, miraculous performances done by His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, especially when he was young. At one time, while he was playing, his vajra broke down, and fearing that his master, his teacher will reprimand him, he, joined them together with the saliva, And also at one time, he transformed just the ordinary water into milk. And he also left his footprint on a rock. So these are some of the extraordinary performances of His Holiness. And also, in India, due to the request of, Khenpo Jigme Pinso Rinpoche and Khenpo Namdru Rinpoche, he, wrote the Arapata mantra on the white conch with his finger, bare finger. And at one point, His Holiness went to a dentist and removed his tooth, one of the tooth there, and his secretary, Kunsan, he took care of that. He kept that tooth, and later he found that relics came out of the tooth. And also many people can find relics around his residence. And these are just a few examples, I cannot relate all of them. So these are the few examples there, how his enlightened activities are being carried out or being, done. So this is the short way of recollecting our late His Holiness based on the first point that I mentioned earlier about the identification of His Holiness Third Penor Rinpoche.
아니 단체니바 데라 단 코리게 남로린데 지도고자 투주라 손로래 더 도를 든주 주제는 자하야 패 근데 지도고자 투주라 손로 남로린데 다 우주바레스.
And then, due to the upheaval in political situation in Tibet, he left and came to India and established the Namtrilling Monastery in 1963.
그때 가서 남로린데 동보 우주디 가서랑 코리게 공예문에데 아 제일 산지기 때문에 그 아주 이마와디 아니 냐차고지다 아니 디저긴 좋아 탭지네 변호로라 냐차 먹고지 중틀리게 통해 지 템바시 시용라 공부 자체무지 얘네 아니 그렇게 주바라고 차별했어.
And he established this Payul monastery, thinking of the Buddha Dharma in general, and particularly about the Nyima tradition. At that time, it was a very critical time, that the Buddhism cannot be practiced in Tibet, in the place where it came, kind of where it was spread before. And so coming into India, he has this vast intention of establishing and spreading the Buddha Dharma in general and the Nyima tradition in particular.
거기 투라 공부 자체 못 되지 예바르마도 갑대디 거리라 아니 이제 공부 제약이지 마사 배샤야 아니 여기요 말했어 그또 자갈에 배우디 가야 괴라야 말했어 랑발을 저기 지금 배우는 이야기들이 차대고 그랬을 때 지금 가야 아니 지 거리라 여기게 아니 놀러셔도 빠져도들이 가야 구토야 말했어 때 지금 가야 여기요 말했어.
Although he has this very vast intention to help the Buddha Dharma, but he has no resources at all. He just escaped from Tibet, without caring anything. He just left Tibet like that, and reached India and having nothing to start a monastery. But he has this very vast intention to help the Buddha Dharma. And also at that time, there isn't much of the his disciples or the monks with him, because they have already been scattered, throughout Tibet and India. So there were only a few of them with him. So it was said that when he first started the monastery, he has only 300 Indian rupees at that time. And then, a few young kids were, recruited as a monk. They joined the monk with His Holiness, and then he looked after them, and he feed them, he housed them, everything, he did it, And it is said that he bought some horses or donkeys, so that, he can bring the vegetables and other things that needed, with the help of these donkeys and horses. And then later on, he bought one bicycle, and riding on a bicycle, he would go, as far as to the city of Mysore, which is right now, you can have to travel by car for about 2 hours. So, he at that time, he would go riding bicycle to buy stuffs to that city of Mysore. And also to make the tea and to give the tea to the young monks, he would travel to the Indian villages as far as kind of 1 hour. It take him 1 hour to get there to buy the milk. And then at one time he went throughout the different places where the Tibetan resides, because all the Tibetans are scattered throughout India, so that, to raise funds for the new monastery.
근데 거기야 거라지는 로디 자가게 샤조 스kim 그초라 팬버디 가서네 능여는 못했던 예발했어.
And then while traveling there to raise funds, towards the eastern side of India in Sikkim, he met His Holiness Dungten Rinpoche, the late Dungten Rinpoche.
능여는 뭐지 그까 대디라 아니 손도 빠르지 그냥 그 공부하기였어.
And at that time, His Holiness Dungten Rinpoche was building a Sangdopare monastery.
희나야 근데 거리에 데코라 전 자가 자연 거라 전 배라데서 다 가사가는 대화에 이제 또 정말 전 티츠 라디오데 능여는 뭐지 프리치네 아니 말로 수말했어.
And then His Holiness went throughout India to raise funds for his own monastery. But when he reached Dungten Rinpoche, he saw that Dungten Rinpoche was building the Sangdopare monastery. So he offered whatever little funds he got to His Holiness Dungten Rinpoche, and he left and came back to Namtrling without having any funds.
그러지 배 양산들 요래서 이제서야 gamba ti지야 제도 되니 gamba 이나야 클라운데 종야 지찬 레카마톤 로모보라 하여레스.
And then there are many other stories. At one time, the monastery, the walls all built, but still, the roofing was not yet done.
아니 테마지라 년담이 비키 바바게 아니 이자데서 근거반데서 저 그때 희전에다 배마시고 이제 칸샤 근데 다샤데서 제토고면도 보고데서 내사면도 배마서 그로바체 그 사람은 배샤티지 드럽체네 아니 사바로 같은데 샨데 피와레스.
And then local Tibetan, they know that, His Holiness was, going through a very tough time. So they did some, whatever they can, and then they brought some bricks and other stuffs, building materials, and donated to His Holiness.
근데 니마지라 대야 니거지라 바바 가시지 여바레스. 저게 고속기 방원 춤추지 제야 자기 동전에 대라 살롱도 지하다 질란도 때문에 나지도는 된대시바레스.
And then during one time, around that time, the local, the Ngakpas, they invited His Holiness, because they were thinking of building a small place to gather together and do some meditation and prayers together. So they want to build that. So in order to do that, they invited His Holiness to first, to consecrate, to bless the place.
고속가데데 몬티아든 소아데 지가 창을 고속 되게 차이야 봐. 이나야 강아야 반도 되게 쉬바레스.
So at that time, they also told His Holiness that, and they have such a plan, but still they have the problems. They have not enough money to build these things,
근데 거기에 갈수 말씀은 말마 사바티지야스 밑에 저러서야 코로나 디베스네. 수마레스.
And His Holiness at that time, he told them that, oh, I have some bricks, so you can take those bricks to build it your temple.
근데 고절 게 딱인데 칠레네 사바테서 기소하레스.
So they were very happy, and they brought a truck with them and took all the bricks that His Holiness gave to them.
Then tene katedige tudruda bachene babake gobake to lechene. There much saba odo to kashine ondo aresen.
But then those people who offered these bricks to His Holiness, they came by and asked His Holiness, why they being taking away these bricks?
뭐지 고속에 얘기를 지 라온으로 준비지 주야 자유하게 자기다 어떤 땅이도 빼갈래 되듯이야. 근데 고속에 대야가 있음 말이지.
And His Holiness replied that, they are trying to build a small temple there, but going through a very tough time. So I gave these bricks to them.
저리게들라 잡아대 대산에 다시 자마토 강한데 트리디 가서 대야 가야랬으니 고속에 휴바레스.
But then these people told His Holiness that, that you yourself is going through such a hard time. You are not able to build your own monastery and residence for the monks. How can you give this to other people?
Tati ngayang kale yore, kozola kale yore, ngazok soma kale yaba chibare, nga kale kale chib dido jire, sen sumares.
And His Holiness said that, yeah, I have the problem and they have the problem too, so maybe I will, somehow get through this.
Tene chidi kasole, da kori ke chi ke kunga chantang, ane chi kori rong ke do tene ma cha chene, ane chi ni da tseme bala, kuli da nyamde chene laka che chene. Tene chene, ane nga so namdo ni kishera gambate zu yores.
In this way, he took and went through all this hardship, and at those times he himself will work breaking the rocks, those stones and the bricks, lifting the bricks, and working same with these laborers who were building the monastery. In this way, he set up the Namdrolling Monastery in South India.
Kori ko yembi kiti kabla kuzu te pe masikin trapo yaba, ani shu chambo yaba. Today da chi yang yen da maraya ke ni chi zubo te trapo yaba chi heavy yores. Kori ke sung yores.
And at that, when His Holiness was younger, people say that, or His Holiness also himself says that, he was very strong and very powerful, and his body is, much more stronger and healthy than most people.
Inaya ngazo kenje unde ya yaba tela, ane papedu kasole shami tamo meba ye yani jord gaba tene chi je yores ta.
But when we see him, we see him that, his health is not that good. His the legs were, it's not that good. And while he walking, he needs, two monks to help him, walking.
Kana senang kori kuna chundi kasole, ane gaba ken soa ke chetole kalejan ju pede ta. Ane tene ke lawang de gomba tene je du kasole tene ke chiko ni na tseme pa kale mo pa jata. Ni pe mo de thola do so tene chagu yares.
It's because while he was younger, he, worked very hard physically and mentally, both worked very hard, and due to this hard work, that his body went through, that's why his body, when he was older, his body was like that, his legs cannot hold properly, and then needs two monks to help him walking.
Tene chedi kasole ta karse brai. Ngaso na kori ke ta nabro lin jaya la ane konga o che khane chaya ba te ngaso ke cancer che ga chalu ores.
So it's very important for us to remind how hardship he went through to establish the Namdrolling Monastery.
Yimba ina ya ta tanda tuchen da wuchi la sano tona ta nabro lin ni thambi ke Khenpo lopen tena ye chine ta tene chi sano tong sa ina ane zamni yong la chabde ya da chi chabi ores.
If you look now, the Khenpos, Lopens, and all those graduates from the Namdrolling Monastery, they are spread throughout the world.
Teni nabdo ni la tanda da basana tona ani te jinja la yunge yiton ne suntong ne yiton baru ke de shegres taba dal tuma.
And right now in Namdrolling Monastery, both monks and nuns, the residents there, is talked about between 3,000, 4,000 monks and nuns.
Nabdo ke kunto yin la ta ko yin de la sana tona triya man se paje yodi veres.
And if you count all of those, there's been in residence at Namdrolling and those away from the Namdrolling Monastery, there are more than 10,000 monks and nuns.
Oda tenechi ke thone zamboli la usonje ke tembil la chawa jache mo ki tutba. Tene chuyo res ko ni ta namro ni suchete.
So in this way, His Holiness Third Penor Rinpoche was able to, establish and spread the Buddha Dharma throughout this world.
Ne re ta tenechi ke thone namro li uchutan ro chi 두드레마도 자산적인 휴토야 야마르 스트리트.
So this is in short how Namtraling Monastery was started, and this is in a very, very short way. I can no way they tell you all the activities of His Holiness.
네, 다체 소마텔라 안에 라중키 도마트니다 지고 라트 중앙에 자가티네 정통데 네 코리기 다요 두번 많이 같이 참여했어.
And another extraordinary activities of His Holiness is the third point now is the spreading of the monks, the vows of the novice monk and the bhikshu monks.
하여튼 코리기 자위라마 바이 다동 초도를 뭐지 군이네 개초당 개롱 그 도마트서 그렇지. 근데 라바도 개롱 그 도마트 비비게 가슬라 코리기 다동 초도 코리기 최고의 마 삐지네 네 뭐지라 나오네. 근데 저런 게 마온발라 안에 라주기 때 자체뭐지 주네 안에 라주기 때데 인가멜리나 차트 슈첨뭐지 tantuake nilundene nawares.
His Holiness received the both the novice monk and bhikshus monks vow from Tartan Choktrul Rinpoche, and at that time Tartan Choktrul Rinpoche, while conferring the bhikshu vows, he offered his own monastic shawl to His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, and he predicted that in the future, the Penor Rinpoche will spread the monks' vows, both the ordinary monks and the bhikshu monks' vows throughout the world.
피치디 안에 지당 가족에 넘바 산지비 기초라 저노모라 안에 라중기 데다 나바기 데니 여바레스.
Generally speaking, in our the Buddhism, we have these two streams of the Sangha. The one is the fully ordained Sangha, and another one is the more like yogi, the Ngakpa Sangha.
이나야 가서 그 손재기 땜바데 안에 해바다 안에 그 딘데게 손재기 쳐되게 안에 시루그데 자첨보지 주거나
But in order to fully well establish the Buddha Dharma, that is both the scriptural and the through the practice Buddha Dharma, the fully ordained monk is very, very important.
대주자점 슈참보진로 된데게네 쪽통이래 제왕게 통이 이만 농산도 도마이네야 라주게 하장게 누누나버지 차송하레스.
And during those times, maybe it's part of because of the upheaval of the times and the political situation in Tibet, and then coming into exile in India and elsewhere. At that time, the monks, especially within the Nyima tradition, the monks, there were very, very few monks.
다데게 통에 로베진 코리게 라주게 고 담바테 고 페마시케 아포치 숨 아니 시도게 데쳔보지 주 라준 타메 슈쳔보지 돈에 고세텔라 라준 드비아테 돈라제 가와테리지 드비아가 시비가레스.
And His Holiness, he guarded all these monks' vows very good, and then he gave the vows to others. And it is said that during his lifetime, he has ordained more than 8,000 monks.
배우야. 어떤 데레게 통해 라중게 가스버래. 라중게 도마데라 지레낭이 차와레스.
When His Holiness escaped from Tibet, he was not able to carry even his own cups and plates, but somehow he cherished the monastic shawl given by his root lama, and he carried that one with his on his own body, not separating from his body. He carried that monastic shawl. This shows how much he cherished and how much he guarded the monk's vows.
코리케 망초라 칼로 카티 남아 있느냐 겐디 망초라 카도 칼리 남아 있느냐 넘바 당시때 라중그 넘바때 소나 이제 송고레세네 코리 칼로지 만원 바도 다 메가 메레스타데 당보데 대송고레스
Whenever he the talks to the monks, the first thing he talks to them is the the monks' vows and the samhaya. They are the very, very important ones. You should guard them, even at the cost of your own life.
코리케 노미케 domba 데라 중케 domba shorne 아니지 그 되게 다바 많이 받쳐라야 근데 코리케 센디 가서라 콘라 힐라 티주와나지 초아유 숨겨야지.
And when some of his disciples, when they gave up the vows, when they gave up the monk's vows and become a layperson, he used to say that, it's very hard for him. It's like somebody, stabbing him in his heart.
지디 가서 같이 있나요? 즉 라중케 domate 숨겨야다. 디토는 코리 있나요? 대가라데 아니 코리 그 로마테서나야 디페 마시키 냠번난 거리스.
So that's why whenever and he talked to the monk, he always talked that, guarding the monk's vow is the utmost important. And he himself does that, to show other people,
이제 단다 단 자가라 남로린데 라주케 대체시다 아니 제시지 차고 그런 상도나 아니 바이오 야고 여리나야 아니 굉장히 님의 근소 라론체가 다 대니보된 코리닌자데 라주미 바탄 디 데디야 라주기 데이 바중찬치 페마시기 다접체물 자체물진 차비어스탄다.
And because right now in Nyima in India, Payul Monastery is the biggest monks monastery, biggest monastery of the monks. And in Tibet also, Payul Monastery is a very big one. But of course, there is the Khenpo Jigme Phunso, and they have very, very close samaya bonded together. So Khenpo Jigme Phunso is Larunga is also the biggest monks residence in Tibet.
어떤 데게 통행 거리게 라주기 데데 다베동야다 안에 게처럼 그 넘바데 자체뭐 민다 미나 이숨네게 그때 거리게 제제 더 많이 같이 차디가레스.
And in this way, they're spreading the monks' vows and guarding the vows, is a specialty of His Holiness Penor Rinpoche. And this is the third point. And the fourth one, His Holiness also mentioned that, whether he able to build a big monastery or not, but he definitely intends to make build a religious college, philosophical college, Shedda, to study and practice, to study the Buddha Dharma. And it is said that he said that, because of the different age groups, some of them are very old age, some of them are very young. So it kind of become a monastery, automatically become a monastery, not a philosophical college at the beginning. So then later on, he really, channeled his energy and resource into establishing the Shedra, the philosophical college, and he invited, Khenpo Tsundu at the time was in India. So he invited there to teach in the philosophical college, and as an auspicious thing, he himself also received teachings at the time,
아니 거기에 갈로트는 오늘 먹고 숨이야레스. 답에 마시크 쉐라 동봉고 주디 가서 갈리 중바 갈서나 캠보 라디가서래 로투메와 로투 예디가서 캠보 메와 용다 가시지 쉐다나 버지 주토나 용다 가시도니 고 가야로한지 캠보 마코야라고 로투 메와라고 되게 돈이 용 상체로야. 근데 양이 양한테 주니 아파게 쉐다 주야게 거리를 지 레다 까완다고 여사 말을 상상하고 되게 좀 좋은 거야 되니 중수세는 갈로트 나야레스.
And in many of his talks, he admitted that, he was having a very, very hard time in establishing this philosophical college, because while he has some of the students there, he cannot find any Khenpos to teach these students. While he has some of the students there, then he cannot find the Khenpo to teach these students. So even at one point, he was kind of thinking that, maybe he has no, karmic connection to establish this philosophical college.
근데 진짜 어제 나나나 진짜 니시자다데 다자 체르 노아치 아니 남돌링께 시다 되니 템비께 캠보다 로벤테서 아니 남돌링 좀 마체니 자갈에 비기 니마 그건바 사샤 그건바 간지 그건바 자가든 누던데 용도 바유다 가사칼레니 개겐 단치니 시다 모부투가 충래스.
But still, he didn't lose his heart. He worked hard and was able to establish the philosophical college. And now, if you see, the graduates of this Nyima Shedra, the philosophical college, the teachers being everywhere teaching, not only in the Nyima monasteries throughout India, Nepal, and Bhutan and other countries, but also in Sakya tradition, in Kagyu traditions also.
This 대군데 가서 별에 간제 빼마셔라 마땅치네 배우를 해당 거 주지네 또 단다 배우 해다티안네 니셔다니 양 캄보다 로벤트네 마부탄네 배우 온조는 가서 갈래 내게 되는 패치네 해다게 내 빼마시기 전부 참디어레스.
And later on, the restrictions to go to Tibet was lifted. He sent Khenpo Pema Sherab to Tibet in Payul Monastery and established the Shedra in Payul Mother Monastery in Tibet. And now, there are many Khenpos coming out of the Payul Shedra from Tibet.
뭐다 되게 쉐다주 대장도 맞네 잡아자 맞네 츠마테 졸라에 쉐다주 쉐다게 진짜 찍봐 진짜 롭센티바 야나 다운로드 가서라 라체티즈 찍봐 아니 대선 잡을리라 포모 예메다 포미 타포 마부지 쉐기어를 라벤네 땅에 아니 르모체나기지 갈카오레스.
And not only for the monks, he also established the nunnery. And in the nun also, they have this philosophical college, the exact same curriculum and the years they study at Nyima Shedra. They also have the exact same thing for the nuns. And right now, there are many graduates from that nuns that's being spread throughout the world. So in this modern world, many of the people are talking about the equal rights for both male and females. But if you see that, the actual practice, put into the practice done was by His Holiness Penor Rinpoche.
This is just a two mares and Maginazo Zumake, Gambana Samotona, Labda to Yares, Labda Tian, Gambaki Labda to Chibares, the data teso, Sheda to Yares, Drukan to Yares, Tizon Soma, Rotanda, Digida.
And not only the philosophical college for the nun, but there is a nunnery there, and there's the school in the nunnery, and there's also the retreat center at the nunnery there for the nuns. So those are following exactly the same rules and regulations that's being followed for the monks. So the equal rights for both the male and females may be, in the West here already, but within the Eastern the countries, and especially in the Himalayan regions, this kind of activities done by His Holiness for the nuns is something that's extraordinary.
나 되게 돈에 이미 해다 주야 되게 잠리 천용라 아니 뭐지 답에 돈야 토라 니 수제 전부 되어야지.
And due to this establishment of the Shedra, the Philosophical College, it played a very significant role in spreading the Buddha Dharma throughout the world.
다들 느드드드 저마다 되자면 됐다. 근데 단생 아바텔라다. 아니 거리 투히 템보지다. 아니 콜로마 정통다. 예수 정통데 만다와야 드디지 슈바이나스.
And now going to the fifth point, how he raised his disciples, and how he looks after his disciples and monks, nuns.
시당당 거리게 투도데 빼마시게 템보. 아니 즉 가른 남아 있나야 주함해 봐. 아니 딘릭지 그 열에서.
And generally speaking, his way of doing is very, very stable, confident. Whatever he does is, he do it, without kind of changing his in between.
거리게 간레지 투기 여바 있나야 수직이 받지도 않는다 되는 쌈마토야.
So that nobody can cause any obstacles or to change his mind in between once he has set his mind to do it.
쭉 가리러지 제바이나 딜라파 아니 렌다고 되게 당하게 돈에 매봐.
Whatever harm thing or obstacles being caused from others to him, he would never respond back in that way.
그 거리게 고zel라 아니 두 테만 닝치드네 라와 그게 희응하래서.
And it is said that during his lifetime, twice, people, gave him the poison, food laced with poison.
땡에서 임바하고 이나야 밭 전체다 되게 나야래 마도 가야 없는 매바로 되게 차그랬어.
He knows that, who offered those, poison laced food to him, but he didn't respond in that way. But still, he, looked that with compassionate way.
대치디 가서 코리 그 투도다 담자 템보 아니 투도 캠보 되네 요리 전체는 되네 단달에 이나야 공사 장관 주문하고 이나야 아니 맞저는 뭐체티 투다 말아야 되네 투도 캠보다 담자 템보 메이 템보 들리지요 오늘 맞아 나한테 되지레스.
So even now, His Holiness the Dalai Lama praised His Holiness the late Penor Rinpoche is someone who is a very, very confident and a very, very strict in fulfilling his wishes.
되나 이제는 콜로마 정도는 선도나야 라마다 뼈부 쓰이네 이래서 뭐뭐 되게 연구요래서 소소게 년절다 노메다 아니 비빈자다 되게라 아니 지 고산도 돼야리 남진 냠들라 아니 지그 초와이나야 냠도 농시한도 되게 뭐뭐지 있는 거 통지해래서 연구요래.
Generally speaking, many lamas, and for that matter, even many great leaders, they're kind of being nepotism in the sense that they looked after their own relatives, their own family, and many of them, that, through their, through both physical and through the financial help, they're doing that,
이나야 르버첸다고 선도나 코리라 고지 대된 로마도 피간주 그 고르주 차제라고 가리여나 겐디망게 마쿠데 지바치네 겐디망라파 타야레마도 코리라 아니 짬신니여레데 미세케 가야나야 글로지다 미세 가야 타나 랭귀지 대바테야케 로지요 말스 고제시보라.
But to His Holiness, whenever people offer him this monies and all those resources that he gets, he never uses it in a personal ways. He uses it for the whole community of the monks. He has two sisters living there in the area, but he never, give any, special preferences to his own sisters, not even offering a mattress, extra mattress or anything like that, He just treats them equal with anybody, all the other, everybody else.
So, 거리기 잠시 추한다고 되나 로몽포지라 잡아망라 노래를 라zen 참도 남자 차성을 너무 잘했어. 대전에 전부전에 이야기를 했어.
And as for his younger sister, she's there at the monastery, and she's there helping as a tailor, to making the monks' robes there, because His Holiness, offers full monks' robes to each monks every year. To do that, his sister is helping him to tailor, to sew those robes.
남들이 코리케 다 이번에 남들이 자체뭐 들리지 제밖에 그 중요하게 되나야 잠시라고 삼노동안 캄바지야 요마르스.
And Namtuling becomes such a big monastery now, but as for his sister, she doesn't even have a separate house.
어떻게다 간지 코리케 강 여바티 겐디 망 그랑 톨 동안에 마도 이 들리메와 아니 고시당게 뭐지 가디는 숨그레스 메리다 아니 주주다 이렇게 남들이 야슈면다고 sano도나 저 마마 주주 가리임에 세안하고 지다 저 미리 가리임에 세안하고 이렇게 야왔다 이렇게 상상으로 가요 말이야.
So in this way, whatever funds and money that His Holiness gets it, he just use it for the whole monk community, and also, any kind of monks that being coming there to get admission to the monastery, he never asks, what kind of race or what kind of background, the ethnic background are they from, or what kind of a religious sect they were coming from. He never asked any of those questions. Anybody coming there can get into it, without being based on the race or the religious sect they follow.
그나 이제는 코리를 꾸제들을 겹치시는 제대로 이나야래 그 드리사발레군이 기나야래 아니 지샤치시다 마도멘테네 이나야래 사발라 냠바지레 마도 코리키 니마키라에 쳐서 많이 쓰네 깔로테네 마보스냐가 저게 권유야스.
And he always says that, he treats everybody equally, whether that be his long-term attendant or a new monk just came yesterday, he treats them both equally. He always talks those things. And I even myself have heard many times from His Holiness' mouth.
어떻게 내지 제는 코리키 지그 잠바된 이제 코리키 숨거려서 남주 그 밑두야 두알라 치안 코고 말했으니 romanola yobiki chidabuda tende lagonola yobiki jajiudabu te zonya papibu mares tende ki sem non jamse da inje ko yawanda chusona tende chawiyores.
And he always treats everybody with loving kindness and compassion. And he always used to tell that, if the person is a bad person, not even those animals, the pets, the dogs or cats or the birds, they even won't come together where the bad person resides.
But the can call it 2 years between then Nabolina Coloma and the Chachamochi Chasonati. Naranga Sanso Chena Koniki 2 Niji Chamber that Chambat Seva and Chanchuk Sam Jachambo Tinichi or Rajan rating those.
That's why I feel that because of his loving kindness and the great compassion that he has towards all sentient beings, he is able to spread all these activities there in the world.
That Korike 2 years about 2 heat of Kareaba. What that did up with you, nothing dangerous.
And this is in short how the person and the personal thing of His Holiness,
That was a Kori neutral upstate Kotsuan ne Lasovani, Naliki Shacho, Jaka Kasakan Payari, Lotavari, Kora Jepsene. And Zali Chang Yola, Tachik Matsu Pebatsam Mahimba, Ani Himalaya Sam Mahimba, Ani Ko Zami Shatan Lupa Mahimba, Gokase Marjon Karema Inaya. Samade la nonche che kododits yungala pentoyala tugi jajimo kinema pepatula na yares te danse tubatela nzamli yongla ne nontenda tembatan rui kitan jajimo chwa tanga jo momboji shya dije mindus.
And then the 6th point, and then later on, he visited, every year throughout the world, he visited different places, including the New York Upstate Retreat Center. In this way, not only the Tibetan, the Himalayan people, or the Eastern people, he benefits through his teachings and through his presence, towards the Western world, without any differentiation of the black-haired person, of the yellow-haired person, or without any kind of differentiation, he able to help and spread the Buddha Dharma throughout this world.
라버도 다 upstate of 수 된대지니 당할 뭐서도 노뉴 야마르지 파 하코아지 바이나 대저 그냥내야 뭐서 된지라 그토네야 냐내 제지야 같은 주야가 그게 희기도 스티치디 맞아 남돌이라고 삼노도나야 아니 조겐 퇴가게 르마 데데지 냐내 제야 같은 주야르마다 대저 그런 같은 인지라 제네 소야 같은 그 나야마레스 스티치디 Harvard mucho que ya no la corre que tú sabes que me donde tenía que no soltar bate soya ani de mucho que Roma te so que haco que te que ya morres.
And especially at Upstate New York Retreat Center, I heard that I haven't been yet there in the Upstate Retreat Center, but I heard that he even taught the Dzogchen Chekje, the cutting through, instructions there, Even at the Namtreling Monastery, he teaches the Dzogchen Turgal, but he never teaches the Dzogchen Chekje in public, like in the upstate, So in this way, we have to know, especially in the Western world, that, how compassionate His Holiness was in order to teach them,
난 삼제라 삼노탄디 가서 rumboche que touche jakenbo mane no cholumbade monche 징에 건보 되네 임발라 때네 비츠 팬토나 산네 아니 투시 자체부 되네 나오네 근데 고가 뭔거지 나야바테 가디사노 타마히와 체네 테기랑 나잘타 아니 단지 휴체로 타야나부 되니기 농마시와 레메도스.
But it may be possible that not knowing the vast intention and the compassionate activity of His Holiness by teaching these kind of profound Dzogchen teachings in the West, sometimes that might give rise to pride.
lama 쳔보 된다 아니 지 된데 짜쳔보 대조 그냥 빼마시기 장총게 가르스는 뉴뉴기다 아니 건보지 차디 가서래 아니 고가 뭐보지 나자디 가서래 근데 가르세 그러다 지 고갑대 아니 잔초니 삼삼의 pom마 해와지니 레하고 임바다지 삼의 코라야지 누야게 남관 야사레스.
So this is such kind of very rare opportunity to receive these things, but great teachers like His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, thinking about such a rarity in the Western world to get the Buddha Dharma and to get authentic teachers to teach there, he taught these teachings to the Western world. But it might lead some people to not thinking about from this good opportunity and the great fortune to receive this teaching, but it might cause some people to get pride, instead of thinking the other way around.
이 가르치기나 제초하는 거지 가르치기나 휴초하는 거지 지 레하고 임바는 거지 그냥 지 도축이 휴제는 거 대학 그냥 가요서랬어. 대조는 가지고 소막에서 지게야 내가 참고했었어.
Instead, some people may be thinking, oh, this Buddha Dharma is very easy to receive it, to get it, So we can get any kind of teachings, It's easy that we can request a teacher and we can get it like that. This kind of, thinking, mental thinking might get rise to this kind of thinking, which hinders us, all of us. So I think it's very important for all of us to really ponder upon this.
라버도가 좀 최징인지 그만에 사는 동안 안에 최대 소속이 주드마 토야 대자 뉴로 동야 해당 뉴로 동야 컨트롤 뉴로 동야 토를 배셔도 마토나 네 최인도 맞이나 최게 상면 손도 제가 그 주세요 난이지 최게 미겐테도 야 혼자 차서나 안에 빼마스칼 가고 차그랬어.
So the real intention, the real purpose of practicing Dharma is, to subdue our own ego or our own mental stream, to tame this one, by having less desire, by having less hatred, by having less anger. And this should be the purpose of practicing the Buddha Dharma. If we don't do it this way, then there is a danger that this very Dharma, which is supposed to get enlightened and liberation, that same Dharma might lead us down to the lower realms.
아주 그때 농촌으로 개개지어스. 최대 최근 메틀스 꼬데 맞지 못했어. 마르톰사케 나노모 별에 마르티 꼬아케 둥그레스. 대체데 마르톰사케 시다 남지 꼬아데 마르 주체는 아주 그 니고가레스. 이나야 마르크론톰사케 꼬아데 마르 칸 제투야 마르스. 대나기 최 드레네 최레 가서고 휴에긴도 싸마다 마토와지나 아니 대한 고뉴 제뉴 sorry 제제네드네 최모부지 고니 고디 줄레니 자르마토 아니 코도 캔보지라와 가래요 코도 두고지라와 가래요 저 데다 미 테마 모보 고뉴 데동에 모보 년차이 데동에 모보 제차이 있었네 아니 가서고다 데네기 돈이 쇼스나 벨로 판부레스.
There's a famous saying in Tibet that, some people listening to many teachings and not putting those teachings into practice, they kind of become, so arrogant that later on that Dharma will not able to subdue them. Just like in Tibet, those butter, they put it into animal skin, the hide, Usually when they tan the animal skin, they use the butter to tan it, to make it very flexible, But that container of the hide to put the butter will not able to make it flexible. It's such a hard, rigid thing, In the same way, we listen to a lot of teachings, we hear this teaching, that teaching, but never putting that into practice, then our mind stream becomes such a rigid, such a hard that it won't, no matter what kind of high teachings we receive, we will not be able to tame it, So thinking, I already received this teaching, I already did that teaching, and he's just a mere Khenpo, he's mere Tulku, I already heard this teaching, that teaching. Like that, your mind will not be able to, tame it with these kind of teachings.
근데 가로다가 삼성다고 시바이 간타라 마도는 뭐지게 누쪽 lumba 쯔비게 자불링게 천용라 농체마다사 다 농체 컴보인사라 베마시크 출자야바 라바르도 나도 압스트레트 쯔바 텐데게 토니 미세게 안에 텐데나야바 테종나도 모시가 테페케 쳔보레샤스.
So in short, what I'm trying to hear is, the activities of His Holiness Penor Rinpoche, especially in the Western world, where there isn't much of the Buddha Dharma being spread and there's not much being flourished. So through his vast compassion, he especially, put many of his resources and energy, in teaching and helping to establish the Buddha Dharma in the West.
아니 다 디디라고 지체는 다 디자 민도 되지 돈에 아니 남니 용라 고르겠다 지도 노치 돌아 휴전하고 가는 마야바 어떤 지인스.
So this is in short, due to the lack of time, in short, how His Holiness activities was spread throughout this world.
아니 단전들만 타마들라 아니 니미기 방함대 도지들라 주제네 아니 휴전하고 가는 중요바 대란 고르게 가르쳐버려.
And the last point I want to make is, how he, helped to establish the Nyima Munlam in Bodh Gaya. It was initially through the help of Tartang Choktrul Rinpoche, in 1989 that the Nyima Munlam festival was first established. From the second Nyima Munlam, His Holiness attended it, And then from the second Nyima Munlam festival, until he passed away, he never missed any of the annual Nyima Munlam.
초소 남아했어.
And he took the presidentship of the Nyima Menlam.
onda tende ke nimi ke malang ke zonge den kori ke shujabo ji yeje ne tende ko rembe ya je doche ne da tandi ti zenda ko sama tona ane ko penda toni be ke cheba ki ni kyu ba to ni ma kyu la ane zong she da ya ba che ke toni zamni yona shi de ywa je to la malang tende ane gendi ba tite zomne nang ya res lo ta ba ji.
And then later on, it was established that, in the 12th Tibetan calendar, from 1st to 10th day, for 10 days, this Nyima Menlam festivals are being conducted. And more than 10,000 monks attended this Nyima Menlam festival, where the main recitation was the Sangje Menlam, the prayer of the good conduct, Samandabhadra's good conduct, and the Jambal Senju, Manjushri Nama Sangiti. These two are the main prayers recited there for the world peace, in order to have the world peace.
Tena yeche ma ko saja yeche ngendi ba yusa che la ronche ta tanda ko ka ba ma thong pa do la sa nda wa tinde ke ko chi jin tu to ya ke cha chen da tenchen samaji jin tu yares.
And later on, able to establish there the Nyima the festival. In order to hold there, they bought the land, they constructed the buildings and there. So now you can have this kind of Nyima Menlam festival forever, kind of. There is the resources there.
Today ke ta khori ke ko tele ko lo kin ma pe ke pa do lo ta ma tindi chi la pe chen chi be chan chen ne ani chi bi ke today en chu ya ji so ma ke ngan jin chi ge la cha ya cha di yares.
So from that, the second time when he attended until he passed away, he never missed any of the Nyima Menlam festival. And because of his presence and because of his contribution, everybody, identify the successful establishment of Nyima Menlam festival to His Holiness Penor Rinpoche.
Narot nonche ke ta do kumani he vai na ane malam da ane sa te pe mamam la sengete la rale de ba cha de vares te chi de ga so le ne dabuli chi de ke yo chi do te ke lotar ma so to ba de pe ma si ke ne te ba shi da ane senjen shi zamni shi la ane ko zabatine la chen chi cha vares.
From the Buddhist point of view, this reciting this kind of aspiration prayer, Menlam festival, is very important, and to be able to do this with the large gatherings among together for the world peace, for the whole beings in the world, and for the Buddha Dharma, is very, very important, and it's very helpful and a great contribution.
근데 다 니만 망함들은 거기 개체목 값에 있는 게 여다 메시아한테 네 벤찬다고 지시와이나 뭐지 신라 페도 페바다 페야 그 단흉기 예디 값을라 이 홍콩인 거기 흉기 비하고 와서
the importance of how His Holiness, hold for this Nyima festival, you can gauge that from the time of his death, just before his death, the last Nyima Menlam festival that he attended, just before that, while he was in Hong Kong, he was diagnosed of the disease.
네 거기 콘코르테서 그 안에 뱅콕라 흉기 이제야 기체돌 시멘초가다 맨데가 근데 페루스에 휴바레스.
So some of his attendants and people nearby, they requested and suggested to His Holiness that he should proceed to Bangkok for the treatment.
르모체가 가르침 바르세나 나 랑발레 시소인 동소인이나야 제발 이런 말했어. 나 인기미지도 이제 마음속 간도 고요. 나 뱅콜런도야 그 뒤쯤에서 마산 말했어.
But His Holiness responded that I don't have time to go to Bangkok. I have to go to Bodh Gaya to attend the Nyima Menlam festival. It doesn't matter. Even I passed away on my way to Bodh Gaya.
아니 거기 도지 데라 배운데 가서 빼마신 휴기 기부 차지네. 아니 초노나 페트야 말했어.
But after reaching Bodh Gaya, he was, very become critical, and then he was not able to attend the actual Nyima Munlam there at the stupa there.
네, 거리다 바긴 남도니 그 검바출 여바래 거리 증상 여바래 거리 딜레 유대바래서.
So in Bodh Gaya, there is his residence is there in the Namtuling monastery in Bodh Gaya, the branch monastery there. So he resided in the residence itself.
근데 겐디바 마한테 고만한 소대바래서. 디제딘 거리게 민다바리히 거리게 저거다 니와데 네야 특별라 야크소네 니마 쭈텔라 니마 쭈 차상라 대야게 마코 되는 거리나니 마마는 손 패반하기 전에 제주바래서.
But since he was not able to attend the actual New Moon festival, but he sent his own, the cushion and his own monastic shawl, so that these can be placed at his throne at the New Moon festival. These are being done every day for the 10 days of the New Moon.
니만 다마 차바쭉 고모텔라 아니 거리다 요지 텔레자 아니 슈지와 이비 그 출단전에 밀로부 타잖아 와라나슬라 안고나 배송하랬어.
But on the 10th day of the New Moon, he became more critical. His health became more critical, and he left Bodh Gaya and went to Varanasi.
와라나스 맨코나 잡고 가게 요진데 방가만은 편에 네 나지스게라 되는 힘이 배송한테 차디어레스.
And he, went to the hospital in Varanasi, and he stayed there for a few days. And after that, he returned to the Namtuling monastery. And about a month later, he passed away.
제제디 가서는 니마 마음 그치 따때마다 생각이 드는 고리 고소라인 밤이 그런 다 들리는 야바기 자고열에서 가서 들리 그 톤이 니마 마음 들라 짜지 뭐 같이 나야 봤다 아바도 때마다 생각이 드는라 근데 고리 그 간는 남기 야바기
So in this way, we can gauge how we can, imply it, how important the Nyingma festival, Nyingma Manam festival, he holds it, and for the sake of the beings, living beings, and for the Buddha Dharma, he even kind of gave up his life. You can say that.
나 되게 기기 돈에 담아서 그 신시에 담아 자료를 뭐지 고체 그 자반티네 타이바지 비노네. So
in this way, among his unlimited enlightened activities, we just recounted and recalled only few of those in the events in his life.
되게 용시 근데 단나가서 그 고반지지여봐 네 용시는 뭐지 콘차고요 콘다보이나 근데 뭐지 신의 패착이 계속을 가서 그 아니 자기 가만 고전지비기 아니 맞아 저도 남았습니다. 아니 괜찮은 남았음. 아니 저도 제제네. 아니 그 용시도 솔루션을 저도 제제네. 다만 자료를 뭐지 휴아도 도닥해 버렸어.
And after his passing away, the Yangsi Rinpoche, now we have this young Yangsi Rinpoche that we are celebrating his birthday today. After passing away in the Payul Namtuling monastery there, headed by His Holiness Kamakuchen Rinpoche and the three Tulkus and three Khenchins, they all hold the meeting and decided to ask, His Holiness Chadra Rinpoche about the reincarnation, identifying the reincarnation of His Holiness Penor Rinpoche.
다른 아주 신기했단 rinpoche 문제 제단은 drabo이어서 가서는 거리겠어.
And this reincarnation, recognition of this reincarnation is also very similar to the third Penor Rinpoche.
그래서 나 자료 rinpoche에게 아니 차이 나지는 사자 늘리기라 아니 그 아니 주보 글로 들리지바지 아니 주야바지 송열에서.
Because Chadra Rinpoche, in his letter, he predicted that in such a place, with such a parent, this boy would be the reincarnated Penor Rinpoche.
근데 고좀 세간 로디 가슬래 아니 랑과라 따던 세마 망보지 대마 되니까 로지어레스.
And then a search team, proceeded to find this the young His Holiness Rinpoche, and on their way, they also had many special signs and omens.
근데 니고게 동생게 메테토르 게자 된 부분 들이로 제체바지 발한테 여러 세대 가서 소마게 카 지주게 부분 들이 제바지 나상들이 지라지 투야래 다가시도고다보다 미세지 지바이나 대인주에서 그래서 남진의 동생 밑에서게 학과대한다고 들으면 중요하게 근데 희열에서
And when the search team, asked the nearby, villagers, they all, in one voice, one way, saying that, if anything special would be done, that boy would be the one, which is very special. They all hold it already, this young boy as somebody very special.
대집이 가서래 단다게 나서 그 모시 그 중간단 이밖에 양식을 받는다고 이나야 그 고미 긴자반 팀은 주종토야 그 고만나 인지 인토야게 맞아 그 이제 제는 리더와 만진난 당대서 때 배마시게 야고지 그 드럽다 단다 나서 맨처마 삼주 뭐고 텐주 뭐고 레주 뭐고 예비 티저 느끼라 느끼 가서래 그 영세지 전투바데 마라톤 소마케 선남다 고고미기 투기 마음 그 자테네 근데 중앙에 삼고도스
So the way, of the identifying of this reincarnated new Yangsi Rinpoche, we can almost, certainly say that, he will be able to fulfill all the wishes of and spread the Buddha Dhamma, just like the previous His Holiness Penor Rinpoche. And this is very fortunate for all of us, that, we're able to here celebrate and His Holiness Yangsi Rinpoche's birthday.
어때지리 가서 말아서 같이 있나야 안에 양서를 뭐지 근자반 팀에 자첨부 용야라 초용원이 맞아 꼬바지 있나야 지가 다치 조진이 상도나 가리나 뭐 잡다 제는 zon데 단단히 맞아 그 고니바냐 문제야한테 내가 좀 모르겠어.
So, and in order to have a great beneficial activities of His Holiness Yangsi Rinpoche, it's very important for all of us, from now onwards, to be included in this one kind of a mandala, in one thing, just even if it's just by displaying His Holiness picture,
어디 지리 가서는 지 대저생인데 빼마신 로저버스 다다 걸 패차레스 난 미리와 아니 고지 근자분이나 샤송크니 고고미 긴자반티는데서 문티니 정도야 가지고 소화도 못 지야돼 내가 좀 소마게 랭간다고 차고야스는 투지체스
And time passes very fast. He's already now celebrating the 9th birthday. So, and we all should, come together and pray that, very soon His Holiness, may be able to visit throughout the world and spread the Buddha Dharma for the help of all the sentient beings. And thank you.
뭐야 투지체 다티 살살히지 주제님도 잘 공다스 이유를 자스
And thank you. And sorry that it took more than kind of 2 hours to talk about all these things.
드림 브레펠 차치는 다 this 티제의 딱딱 중마선스
So I'm not able to follow the exact time today.
오케이 당아저게 닐라민난 저 디리키 체면스더니
So now we should do the Guru Yoga very short way.
오케이 다음 yeah page number 1 남주 daily practice page number 1
Maybe
yeah
it's on. Something's wrong with the screen. I don't know.
남주 daily practice page number 1 Omo nonse nanda rongye lendo be daje choje shina yubai sonje chedan gende bape so kalan chanta daja tashi deme jabo saten tempo chambe jeba geda bata
Ευχαριστούμε, Εφη.
bomba jaje rabaje tempo taba sada bata Sanja danje lagon da peba iten je ba sa ta Sandam de be da je ba be o de wa je ba je la chang sa Yamba Gyanam Paden Dogen Kere Siawang Gombo Chambi Saye Nyimbo Deva Namba Se Tangi Nyimbo Manjo Kanto Eba Doje Bega Lukin Ta Nobo Dawa Rabi Nyima Sanze Lenan Daje Pachin Chu Chanjo Semba Jilan Chansa Yenje Dunjo Dajin Sechen Dunjo Bozan Yon Kama Yanda Dunda Binzo Babe Mena Jansen Wanjun Koro Yenje Tanjo Jechen Chansen Jen Chode Jawan Chode Jeshe Yesong O Tembe Bambe Kage Lamo Jelan Chansa Somba Jembo Denjo Zeme Bo Nidan Denda Jabo Yonko Aje Boda Lo Mime Zang Nande Seda La Den Kolo Keyo La Dan Don Don Do Je Jin Pio Ra Den Cho Den Jan Den Sasa Ne Song Gele Da Yin Ben Je Den Shua Jelan Changsa Raja Dende Cha Zembala Kedanya Sewa Kinshi Dada Bambe Sande Yen Kajin Dele Binzon Zobar Shu. Page number 129, 129, 129. Oh my Nangwada Yambi Senjan Danji Tama Sonji Chuje Gula Sonde my Nangwada Yambi Senjan Danji Lama Dejan Onje Dobe Gula Sonde Nangwa da nyandi senje tanje lama duje dube kola sonde. Nangwa da nyandi senje tanje lama sonje rimbo jela sonde. Lama Lama Chen Chen Zai Lama Chen Lama Chen Lama Chen Chen Zai Lama Chen Lama Chen Lama Chen Chen Zai Lama Chen Lama Chen Lama Chen 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 Zai Lama Chen Lama Chen Lama Chen Zai Lama Lama Ye Jen Dai Lama Jen Lama Jeno Lama Jeno Ten Dai Lama Jeno Chile Dagi Jebra So, Lama Danda, Meba Chingilo, Dada Tayendo Mari, Gay Tawan de la Tenini, Terra Lice, Sayon Chenzo, page number 172, 172, dedication. Sonam de Tanje Zipani, Tane Nibe Dana Panjish, Chega Naje Wala Trubai, Siben Solendo, Shu, Jagat, De Doakan, Tata Tambi Chetam. Wajan Tani Zoba Tachin, Changa Dubin, Jitan Zebraju, Sonje Temba Tai, Jebaju, Senje, Tanke, Dehin Shiba, Nintan, Sendo, Chula, Shaba, Rojan Tani, Lechin, Druba, Shu, Shiva, Kunda, Yonda, Lama, Dame, Joje, Pala, Longshe, Sada, Lanje, Yanten, Razo, Doje Jonke Gomban Yodo. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So sorry, a little bit late to 10. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you,
Nama.
Khenpo. So
Thank
beautiful
you,
to hear the
Khenpo.
story.
so much for
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Celebrate
Thank you,
Yangsi's
Lama.
birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All the best to you.
All the best.
Thank you.
New Year is beginning
Happy New Year. Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Hope to meet the Yangsi.
Yeah. I'll see you soon.
谢谢师
Thank you.
兄翻译。
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next our next special event will be Khenpo Sonam Rinpoche will be doing the Heart Sutra accumulation practice, and it will be on January 16th. Please check the website if you would like to join us.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Khenpo. Thank you, Khenpo. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Lunch photo. Oh, wow.
Very
Do you want me to
inspiring.
save it?
嗰陣師兄啊，嗰個1月16號幾多點啊？
Not off yet.
They can cut.
Only off when you leave. Gilbert.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to leave.
Okay.
They will.
Have a great day.
Get off.
好，唔該。
Thank you.